and welcome to another exciting episode of Deadlines with 6B Comics, where we'll be
Yes,
chasing the
yes.
plot. I'm glad you
uh,
enjoyed that, man.
yeah, I really enjoy it. I was waiting for you to say this is Kenny Williams, and I was ready to say this is James Roberts, and then you just went straight to deadlines.
Listen, because we're on a deadline, baby. We're on a
Okay,
deadline.
all right.
But
Good to
it's
know.
funny because as you said you were waiting for Kenny Williams and James Roberts, our names mysteriously appeared.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. So
It
what's going
works.
on? What's going on, Ken?
I'm excited to finish the conversation we started last week with. Hold up, let me throw it up because I'm excited about this little thumbnail that James drew for us. So here we go. Bam! Chasing the plot, baby. Chasing the plot with the Uncanny Spider-Man. Well,
Yes.
actually, we're going to be talking about chasing the plot with the Uncanny Spider-Man. So I'm really excited about really getting our hands dirty now and dealing with the foolishness of putting together a plot and carrying it out. So where do we leave off, James?
I have no remembrance of where we left off. It
I
was
knew you were
so
going to say
long
that.
ago. Uh, I believe um, with the plot. Let me see. I remember we were talking about Silver Sable,
Yes,
but they really just introduced her in the end of book one,
right.
so we really didn't get into too much with her. But yeah, she was introduced at like almost at the very end of the book, wasn't it?
At the very end of the book, they didn't even.
Yeah.
She just walked in and she stepped
You
out of
mean
the
flew
shadow.
in? You
Yeah,
mean
she just
flew in?
flew in and stepped out of the shadow. Was like, oh, it's about to get really lusty up in here. Because we know if you have Kurt and you have Silver Sable, I almost said Surfer, um, you know that there's going to be some fireworks, but not the kind that you think about in an action comic. Which
Ah,
kind of points me to how I like to start, even before we get into the second book. I want to point out to our listeners that uh, James has been away from the reading comic books on a monthly basis for a number of years now. I, on the other hand, I follow it on a regular basis. So even though I know a lot of what's led up to this, James, until I open up my big mouth, is not really aware of what preceded it. So he has more of a pure take of how the storyline is going on. Now, one of the things that we talked about last week is the fact that Marvel has a very, as James will put it, convoluted history. I'm more of a purist, so I enjoy. I don't know why I'm swaying like I am, but because I guess I'm getting excited to be able to chomp into this. I'm more of a purist, so I love the backstory and the history. It's the things that endure these characters to me. And one of the things that James pointed out last week is that the writer Cy made the world feel big enough to be able to support all these characters and all these histories. It doesn't feel like we're claustrophobic. It feels like, it's a big story and it feels kind of epic, even though it's a small story dealing with uh, Kurt Wagner's humanity or what he was feeling like his humanity being stolen from him. Thoughts?
I think you've been thinking about this story a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little
Okay,
bit.
that was a good summation right there, Ken. I enjoyed that.
Well,
Um,
I too am a writer.
agree because I said most of that stuff. um, the the world seemed like it had what was going on had repercussions throughout the world. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. The first book. Now I can't wait for us to get into the second book. To be honest,
I concur. So, why do you think it worked? Like you
well,
said, it could
the
be
first book.
convoluted. The first book. Why do you think
Well,
it
again,
worked?
I think I said it last time, and I guess I'll repeat myself again. Is that we were presented with a lot of questions, a lot of characters we didn't know how they fit into the world, and as we got to know them, we saw how they fit, and it opened up to another character, and so on and so forth, or another situation,
Right.
and it kept evolving. The story was moving forward. It has action, and it was also moving forward in the and I guess the emotional realm as well, and just explaining the world. I really enjoyed seeing that Sentinel show up. Uh, like you pointed out, it was looking like Tony Stark's Iron Man.
Right. I know that freaked you out.
Yes, it did. And then to see that it was scanning for mutants, and that was why my question was: is this in the universe, the whole Marvel universe right now? Because it seemed like such a pivotal point for the story and how the Marvel universe is working right now. Like mutants don't seem to have any backing except for the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in the not so friendly neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I
So
I also like the way that again, I think that one of the reasons why it worked is because of the back histories of these stories, of these characters rather. We know that Spider-Man has always had a friendly relationship with the mutants of the Marvel universe. We also
I'm gonna
know,
hold you 1 second right there.
uh
We
huh,
all don't know that if you're just coming into the story, but you
right,
figure that out from seeing the way they interact with each other, which I
yeah,
thought was part of the appeal of those two characters together.
I
You
agree. I agree because they didn't come across as staunch, as rigid. They came across as people who have a history with each other.
and they weren't trying to punch each other in the face, which
Who'd
is
have
typical
thought
for
that two
Marvel to do,
miracles could get two heroes could get together and not meet with a fight, right?
and actually get along. That's
Right.
amazing. No, I said
Absolutely cool.
amazing. I meant uncanny.
Ha! Well, oh, I see what you did there. Don't do that no more. But and even some of the characters that haven't met the heroes yet, it made sense to see them. You know, it's in the storyline you wouldn't know this, but Toombs, Adrian Toombs, the Vulture, in
Yes.
the Marvel comics, took a turn at being a good guy. So he's been in canon trying to do the right thing. So for him to show up working with Orcus, if you don't know any better, you will feel like, oh, this is out of character. This is lined up with what's going on. But it actually lines up with anyone who has been a Spider-Man fan for any number of years knows that Adrian Toomes has always been infatuated with immortality. He wants to regain his youth. So this storyline, him jumping on, is just another method of him to pursue his youth. And I like the fact that Cy did not spell it out for you, but he gave you the opportunity to come to the conclusion on your own. And once
Yes.
again, put more respect on the Puerto Rican hero. Poor Pharaoh.
So
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Poor Pharaoh.
yes, it happens though. It happens.
Often,
Uh,
often. Go ahead.
Too often, too often. What I was going to say is, again, it's good that you're able to bring up the storylines of the history of these characters,
Mm-hmm.
because again, when you coming into it, like I know Vulture obviously because I used to read way back in the day, but to know that he was becoming trying to become a good guy or I shouldn't say a good guy, trying to be like a decent folk.
Right.
It's eye opening to see that he did switch over, but you explaining that reason, not just you explaining it in the book, it was sort of I was really hinted at, was it?
It was hinted at, and it was very mildly hinted at.
Yeah, that's like an Easter egg for people who are in the know.
Right.
And that, I think that's what entertains you as well, is that you've got all of this back information that you've been reading for years and understand about the characters. And then I think that also may be a reason why a lot of older readers or people who've been reading and still keeping up enjoy this story, because there's a lot of those things. Like when Sable shows up, first thing you said, well, you know there's going to be some action between her and Kurt, but not everybody who knows Sable and Kurt like that. So there's a
Right.
lot of readers that who don't know that's happening. So when it happens, it's sort of a surprise.
Right. So
So
here we go. Spoiler alert. I'm gonna tell on you, James. Spoiler alert. Me and James have known each other for years. As a matter of fact, since junior high school. And one of the areas that we always come button heads against has to do with the purity of the storyline. So, especially when something leaves the comic book realm and goes to television or goes to the movies, I'm the one's like, that's not comic accurate. And James like, well, but Kenny, it works. I said, it does not work because my feeling is this. You have a vehicle that has almost 80 years of story building, storytelling, and growing an audience. And then when you jump over to the next genre, you cut all those guys off for the pursuit of someone new, and you lose them. So what winds up happening is that no one wants to go back and watch that movie again. I mean, I believe that Deadpool is proof of you can do it right and not lose your audience. And James, when it's just me and him alone, he'll agree with me. But when there are other people present,
uh,
he'll side with them. But that's okay. That's okay. I've gotten over it over the years.
I don't
It-
think so, Ken.
James, in your defense,
In my defense,
uh huh.
I actually enjoy arguing with Kenny. That's one.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Yes, yes. Two, well, I prefer to keep an open mind about a lot of different things,
Mm.
because we when you're thinking just about the past, you've now locked that all into just what has happened in the past. And I mean that in the sense of you're from the comic books to a movie. But there's also a creative space that happens between that. Those two mediums are completely different in that, you have actors who add to the character. You have directors who add, who have a vision of what they want to happen. You have producers who want to emphasize something. There's so many people involved instead of just the pureness of a comic book, which is not even that pure, because you have writers, you have editors, you have artists. They actually have a say in how things, at least visually, appear. All of these elements make that one thing. You have about 10 times more of that when you take that to a movie or the little screen, the TV, like streaming or what have you. Or just so many elements that are involved. You can't really keep it exactly the way it was. I know that's what you want, but that's not how it plays out. And see, this is
Except
where
in
we get.
Deadpool. Except in
But
Deadpool.
even in Deadpool, it didn't play out that way. A lot of what goes on in Deadpool is, it almost feels to me like Deadpool stream of consciousness, but it's a different consciousness. You can tell that that's not exactly the same thing that goes on in his books. Close, but not exactly.
Listen, I'm going to stop. We're going to do what we have always done: choose to disagree, because
Agree to disagree.
I personally believe, because this is not what this particular conversation. We're supposed to be chasing the plot, although this is
We
it's
we are
relative.
we
It's
are
yeah,
it
it's
is.
relative to the conversation because it has to do with the it has to do with the delivery and the keeping the essence of the character, and I think that that's what the MCU has done better than any other people that have brought over a comic book character into the big screen. Even though they're not sticking to all the storylines, they're following all the beats. I mean, that was Tony Stark. I don't care what anybody says. He was acting just like him. That is Captain America. You know, it's and oh my lord. Now Hawkeye was a little bit different because like I said last week, Hawkeye is in the same boat as Daredevil and and Spider-Man and and Silver Sable. So James, why don't we hop into book two? Why don't you give us a synopsis of what the storyline was really dealing with?
It was hot and heavy. That's what was going on.
Woo!
Okay. Well, beyond that, what was going on was really more information. To me, I felt like it was a lot of information being dumped or squeezed into that episode.
Mm-hmm.
You get to find out more about what happened to Kurt Wagner. I was
Wagner.
I was corrected by Kenny earlier about that.
Wagner.
Yes. And in his past, or his most recent past, when he was taken over, apparently there was a device used, and immediately that device obviously affected how he thought about stuff, and it had changed who he was, which is why he's having this, I'll say, identity crisis right now. Why
Mm.
he's and that's what I was thinking last week. I couldn't get out. It's an identity crisis. He doesn't know who he is, and to have him dressed up as Spider-Man like plays into that as well. So yeah, it's a lot of different things going on. But you introduce Silver Sable, and she immediately picks up that something. Yeah, there she is. She
That's the
she
one.
she immediately picks up that something's not right. Something is amiss immediately. And although she's a mercenary, she has some moral fiber, we'll say. She says everything's about money, but sometimes her heart gets in the way.
Sometimes.
Hey, I'm trying to be nice.
There you
Uh,
go.
yeah, so this story really, to me, was, uh, again, information. I don't want to call it a dump. I think it was a nice way to put it out there and still have some action involved, and to emphasize that they're still up to their old tricks with Rhino,
Go ahead.
and how it plays out, and they're also keeping it on the DL and hiring Silver Sable and her group. I don't think they're the wild. What do they call them? The wild
I thought it was the
bunch,
Wolf Pack.
the Wolf Pack.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think there's the same group though. I think it's a
No.
bunch of different characters. Well, anyway, regardless of that, she's still they hired her as a mercenary, but they didn't tell her the whole story. So they're still trying to do what they do under the cover of they're going after mutants, quote unquote. So and we get to see that Nightcrawler and Silver Sable have a bit of spark.
History?
Yes, a bit of a spark. More than history, a bit of a spark. So, not a lot really in the story per se. I mean, we did get reveal on the plans of Orcus.
Oh, and by the way, you were right. They're called the Wild Pack.
Okay, Wild Pack. Okay. Um, Orcus, and well, we get introduced to, or in the first book we get introduced to Vulture, but then we also get a little peek at, yeah, that's the guy,
That's the guy.
uh, Nimrod is
Ugh.
introduced. Yeah,
I'm not
and
throwing out no pictures of Nimrod. That's just a bad. That's that's
yeah,
just gonna work out bad.
nobody wants to see Nimrod right now. But again, a very important character in the shape of this whole thing, which is another reason why I felt like the world was so big, because Nimrod is like the end all be all when it comes to the Sentinels.
Yeah.
He is the thing, and you're not stopping Nimrod. He's indeed a force to be reckoned with. And then to see him still working with Vulture and them coming up with some kind of a plan that eventually will play out. But you know, that's introducing those characters and being able to see a whole bunch of different possibilities with the story.
Right.
All right,
So
I'm finished. I'm done.
no, that was a lot. I like the fact that pulled in he pulled in Sable as a method to push Nightcrawler's story further, because there was only so much he was going to share with Spider-Man. There was only so much information he was going to share with Peter. But in his flirting, and you said something funny on the last episode, is that nobody, and I mean nobody, is fooled into thinking that this is not Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
She knew exactly who he was from the first time she
Yeah.
saw him.
Yep.
So probably because, well, I'm not going to go there because this is a Christian channel. But the fact that he used her as, I thought that was fantastic. That from a writing standpoint, sometimes you have to pull in another character to draw out dialogue from the main character, because the main protagonist in this story is definitely Nightcrawler.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
And here comes Silver Surf. I keep saying Surfer. I don't know why.
Because you're thinking Surfer. It's
I'm
okay.
thinking Surfer, but come on, stop playing.
All right.
Fantastic Four is coming. It's coming. It's
Yes, it
coming.
is. It's on its way.
So it's on my mind. It's on my mind. But Sable touches into his manhood so she can pull stuff out just by flirtation. And it feels natural. It once again, it feels like we're watching a guy and a girl playing hard to get with each other. And in the mix of that, while we're laughing at the antics, I don't remember. Did they go to the bridge, top of the bridge, and in this issue?
In issue 2, did they? I do not remember. You know what? I got the book here. So keep on. Proceed, Kenny.
Okay, so but what I'm saying, while the antics are going on, the story is still moving forward. Like you said, it was a information dump, but it didn't feel like because a lot of times when there's a lot of dialogue heavy, it feels like the story's not moving. But again, Sai had a way of moving it from one scene to the next, kind of like in staccato. So even though you got the information, you got a quick introduction to who these characters are, and then they just, they were their characters. So it was like their characters themselves drove the story forward. If you see the Rhino, there's going to be, there's going to be a high level of damage.
Well, it's also, and it keys in with the whole Spider-Man
Aspect.
identity. Yeah. So it was important to have. Vulture does too, to be honest.
Yeah.
Vulture, Rhino, these are Spider-Man's enemies. So for him to be the Uncanny Spider-Man, he's going to have to deal with some of those, some of Spider-Man's bad guys. So
Right.
it makes sense. It just makes sense. And I agree that Rhino is going to be Rhino. Well, imagine Rhino's going to be Rhino, but apparently Rhino
Yes.
was a character who had decided to not be the Rhino any longer.
Right.
So
Taking care of his little girl.
yeah, and that is something that quickly Sable picked up on and was able to let Orchis know that she noticed. When Rhino first attacks Kurt, he immediately is, his agile self is jumping out of the way, but then he jumps onto him or teleports onto him,
Hmm.
and is trying to remove the device that is planted squarely on Rhino's forehead underneath his horn.
Which
And
is a direct assault to what he's going through because it means that he figured out that Rhino is being controlled like he
yes,
was
and they
controlled.
never said that,
They
but
never said it.
Silver Sable said that device looks a lot like what is on that long-haired creature that assassinated those guys. It looks the same,
Hmm.
and I think that was a point of her saying, "I know what you guys are up to,"
Right.
and I think that's another reason why, although she still had to keep up appearances, she had to hear out Nightcrawler's or Kurt's side of the story as to what really took place
Right.
and who he. And I think that was she was sort of doing her own investigation,
Which she
among other
tends to
things.
do. Which
Among
she
other
tends.
things,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But she was investigating a few things, James.
Yes, apparently, she had to find some stuff out.
We didn't see much of Mystique in this issue, did we?
I think in the beginning she was there, but it kind of jumped back and forth because isn't that how he wound up on the that top of that what was that he was sitting on when Rhino attacked him? Was it a
He was on top of the castle again, wasn't he?
yeah, yeah, maybe. No, it wasn't a castle. It was like a was it like a newsstand or something like that?
Well, that is a very Spider-Man-y thing to be doing,
Yeah.
sitting on top of a newsstand.
Well, anyway, he was yeah, we at the beginning he talks to Mystique, and she gives him the old heave ho and leaves him, and he is frustrated, and that was something that I was like, I couldn't really understand his frustration there,
What do you mean?
uh, because he was like he let her go, she's going through obviously she's going through some kind of trauma, and he's trying to reason with her, but it's not happening, and then she just basically says leave me alone and walks off, and he says, well, forget you then. He didn't use it in those words.
But that's what he basically said.
Yeah, and then he just teleported away. Like I guess he was giving her room to work out her own things, but
I think it
there's
was
obviously
also,
something wrong.
yeah, I think also, uh, because you already said it, he's having a crisis of faith. He's dealing with what happened to him, and he really needs a mother. That's his mother. She's acknowledged that she is, but she's never shown him sympathy or love. And here it is. She's asking for sympathy from him, or rather, he feels like she's asking for it. Like I said, it was a really deep storyline. So, and again, Sai doesn't spell it out. He puts it there. And for those who know the backstory, okay, so the history that we knew of uh, Mystique and Nightcrawler goes way back to the Chris Claremont years, where we know that she was married to a count somewhere in one of the Slavic countries, and she was hiding in plain sight as his wife. And then when she got pregnant and she had Kurt, he was blue. And he didn't have natural shape shifting. So she got her life was ended right there with the count. This is what we were told, right?
Right.
And she ran for her life, and she threw Kurt over a waterfall and left him to the wild animals. And then she went and started her life all over again. That's what we heard. We were told that he was picked up by Margali, who was a witch that worked at one of the traveling
Circus.
gypsy circuses,
Yeah.
right? And that she was a horrible mother. We know that he had an on again, off again relationship with his stepsister. And then we find out a little bit later on that the count wasn't actually Kirk's father, but the demon Azrael was, right?
Hmm.
So we've got all this stuff stuck in our head. So, I'm reading this for the first time and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, this makes sense. At this point, he really needs. Oh, I'm going to state it again. He was getting advice from Spider-Man. It doesn't get any lower than that, James.
No, see, I'm gonna tell you. Oof, you want to see a deep secret?
Go for it.
Well, I shouldn't even say it's a secret. It's something that I think when we see the world, we see it through our own lens, our
Uh
own
huh.
way of seeing stuff. So all of this stuff is Kurt.
Yeah.
Spider Man is Kurt.
Yep.
Even Mystique, her shape shifting is his identity changing depending on the environment and the situation.
Oh, I'm going to need you to stay on this topic because I think that you're kind of giving an insight of behind the scenes of the thoughts of a writer, not just what appears on the page, not just to push a storyline, but literally the method that he used. So go, James.
Oh, thanks for the build up, kid. No pressure there whatsoever.
None at all.
But all of the characters, well, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of the characters that he meets up with is definitely connected to it. Rhino, Rhino is a victim like he was a victim to the same technology. So there's an aspect of him in almost every character that he meets and has to deal with. When he meets with Sable, she's a lot like him, inquisitive and well, really inquisitive. I'll leave it at that. Um, so you really get a chance to see aspects of his personality in all of these different characters, and that's what really is, to me, is moving that story forward as well, because you get to understand Kurt a little bit more as you see him meet with these characters, and you can see how they are with him. So that's that's where I'm stopping right now. So
That was pretty intense, and I thought that was cool because, again, it's one of those things that you don't really think about that a writer has to put together. So one of his techniques, and you nailed it, is that basically every voice that you hear in this story is the voice of Nightcrawler. The reasoning that Spider-Man says to him, and the reasonings that uh, Silver Sable says to him, and the hard stop that Mystique gave to him. Mystique has always told him to get over it.
hmm
I don't love you and stuff like that. So figure it out on your own. And for Kurt to get to the point, as you said, where he said, "Forget you." Basically, I mean, he didn't say like a black person would say it, but basically that's what he said, right?
right.
uh, that was so out of character, and maybe that's the part that uh, caused you to pause.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
But again, out of character, his identity is in question right here, and that's what he's going through.
yeah.
So
I'm blown away by the quality of Sai, and I know I always mess up his last name. I want to say Sterling, but I know that's not what it
I
is.
thought it was Spurrier.
Spurrier. It's Spurrier. But every time I try to say it, I try to pronounce his last name grammatically, and I fail every time. Spurrier. Spurrier.
Simon Spurrier, and
Right.
they call him Psy.
Sai did his thing with this story. I mean, he really showed that he has true writing chops. And understand, myself and James, we are both writers, but we're also both artists. So the fact that we can, back away from the art and look at the story like this and just break it down. I know there's other people on social media that's breaking down stories, but I like the fact that we're able to break it down from the point of view of a writer because he's got some nice tricks in his tool belt.
Well, he's been writing for a very, very, very long time. I think he's coming up on 20 years of writing.
Wow.
I
Wow.
think, I think, I think, like I think early 2000s was when he started writing professionally.
And
So
he
he's
didn't
got
come on my radar until he did that. Oh man, wow! Why did his name just go Moon Knight? Woo, that
oh
scared me for a second. I had an old folk moment.
he wrote for Judge Dredd.
That's crazy.
Yes, it is
You talk
crazy.
about Judge Dredd back in the early 2000s?
Yes, yes. He wrote some of those. He's been around for a minute,
You're not
and
kidding.
yeah. So to see him put this story together like this is should not be surprising. He's definitely a veteran of
Are
the
we
kind of
talking
writing
the
practice.
original Judge Dredd stuff or the newer stuff?
Uh, I couldn't tell you exactly, but I think he did do some 2000 AD.
Wow.
I think he did do some of that. Yeah. So he's he's been around. He's been around. He's not somebody who just
Rolled out of
showed up.
bed.
Yeah, he's been around. He's been doing what he's supposed to be doing is writing and writing a lot.
Well, it definitely shows in this storyline. I mean, this is a small, some might call it a throwaway book. It kind of wraps up. This is the third book in the trilogy of Nightcrawler throughout the Krakoa age. So this was like next to the last story, not counting X-Men Blue that came out like 2 weeks after this storyline ended,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of reestablished exactly the history of Nightcrawler once and for all again. Until the next writer comes and changes it again.
Completely. Yes, but that's okay because I think that's the magic or was the magic of comic books is that you have these different writers who have different visions of the same character and you get to see through their eyes how they see the character and what
Right.
this character would do or say or what have you. I say was because uh, I keep thinking about anime and manga
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and how there's a completely different like writing style. I shouldn't say completely different, but it's not so action oriented.
No, it's
It's
not.
it's more it's delves a lot more into characters and why they do what they do,
Right.
or their how they connect with other characters.
Right.
So I feel like this kind of rolled a little bit into that direction, but I also feel like because we need action in action books, we kind of allowed that because I really would have liked to have seen the conversation between him and Sable last longer, but it was
Yeah.
interrupted by Rhino busting through the wall. You know what I mean? But that was to
Mm-hmm.
keep the story moving forward, and they had to sort of close up that book. I guess because the information they didn't want to give too much information.
Well,
But
you
it
know what? My old foginess is coming out right now because
yes, your
that's
old folk.
because okay, I guess I get to put it on my put the screen on just me for a minute, right?
There you
Uh,
go. There you go.
I think that it really comes down to the fact that both art styles developed differently. Remember the during the 19 what was that the 40s the 50s Astro Boy and those guys,
Hmm.
they did not have the budget of Disney, so their storylines, even their art, they were finding out how we can tell a story without spending so much money. So it's like one of the themes in manga is that they will have a silent scene, maybe a water feature moving, or a leaf falling, or something floating on the screen, where it's just a still image while the dialogue is still going forward. And then they just save. Come on, it's like what Dragon Ball Z. You wait for
Hmm.
like 3 weeks before the fight actually happens, and
Ah, Yamakane
just when he's saved up all the energy, it gets misdirected and he misses the whole point, and then he has to save up for another 3 weeks, right?
Yes.
So it's like it's really for them. It's more. It has always been more about how do I tell the story without the big beats of the fighting. So they went more psychological. So I think that it's the fact that so many people are moving in the direction of manga and anime now. Now, you and I were a little bit different. We discovered anime when we were in middle school,
Hmm.
right? So it's Bubblegum Crisis and Akira, and it's worth saying Bubblegum Crisis again.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Oh man, and in America we watch Robotech, right? But
Hmm.
then we got a hold. I don't know how Ben did it, but Ben got a hold of the original a Japanese version of it, and it was a life changer. It changed the direction of my life for the rest of for the rest of my life because it was so visceral. It was so real. The stakes were so much higher. And then I that's when we found out. Wait, there are censors? what, what the what? You mean you've been hiding the good stuff from us all this time? And it's amazing that things go. And now here we are, some literally years later,
Yes.
and now it seems like both uh, different branches of storytelling are starting to come together in a much more tangible way, and Sai is proof of that. And which makes sense because if he did 2000 AD, which was a UK comic to begin with, and UK comics are totally different from American comics anyway. As a matter of fact, most of the stuff in Europe tends to be a little bit harder than the stuff in America, but which means that he has a background and a history of more than just one form of writing for what is the word that we use for it? Uh, oh man, I haven't used it in a long time. But when we say comic book artists and storybook artists, they are what kind of art do they do?
Comic art. What do
No,
you mean?
it's like it's
You
not
can't.
animated. It's not animated art. It is. Oh man, it'll
You're
come.
gonna have to give me. You have to give me
It'll
some
come
more
to me.
clues.
It'll come
All
back to
right.
me at the end of the.
Okay. All right.
All right, I'm coming off my soapbox now.
Okay. Please get down. Thank you.
Hater.
uh, well, again, bottom line is, I guess it's the bottom line. Uh, the story was. This was really more about setting the stage so that we understand more about what Nightcrawler is going through and how he's dealing with it right in this moment.
Right.
So I don't know.
I think that the third and the fourth book. Well, the third book really leads us to the climax of the story. It leads us to the third act. Truly, there's a lot more action that's happening in the third storyline. It seems like things are coming to a head, but what would you say about the third book? How did that grab you?
It definitely seemed like you were saying, the stakes rose. Um, there's a
And
lot
what
of
were
stuff
those
that
steaks, sir? Were they sirloin? Were they T-bone? Were they ribeye?
they were ribeye, sir.
Okay, that's what I thought.
No, the idea of Sable trying to get even closer to, if that was possible, closer to Kate,
I
uh,
see what you did there.
and then to see, in some ways, Kurt trusting her.
Yeah.
That was a big twist, and I don't. I guess we're going to talk about it anyway. But then there's a level of betrayal that goes on there,
Mm.
a level,
What was the
and
level of betrayal?
uh, well, she said she needed to talk with him, meet with him, and when he showed up, the her crew. Well, one, she was in her uniform, and then her crew just unloaded on Nightcrawler. They used these zappy zappy things to zappy zappy him. Uh,
There was another plot device that he used with Sable. I got it out that time the right way.
Almost.
Whenever she was being her true self, there was an article of her clothing that was missing. And whenever she was about the business, that
She was
article of
where
clothing showed up.
you mean she was in her uniform.
She was in her uniform. There,
I think that's a good observation because when she was fighting Nightcrawler in book 2, she went off on him and she had grabbed his tail, but she was in full uniform. When they were forced to escape and they had teleported down into the tunnel, Nightcrawler removed her helmet
that's right.
and gave light to the situation, if you will. And
Ooh, oh, whoa, 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 whoa! You can't glaze over that.
yes,
What
I
does that
can.
mean? What does that mean when a writer gives light to a situation?
He revealed his position on the whole thing as well. There we go.
Wow, that
Yeah,
was deep.
yeah. And
You get
she,
snaps for that. Nice catch. Nice catch. Nice catch.
but she also was left vulnerable. That helmet was her armor, and she
Right.
was willing to listen to him and be in that vulnerable position. So it's really deep when you look at it that way because I don't know. Sometimes stuff is done where you don't really think about it, but she made herself vulnerable so that he could be vulnerable,
Right.
even though she still had a gun on him.
Humanity, bruh. Yeah,
Yeah,
but gun means what to Nightcrawler? He's faster. He can dodge bullets. Okay,
yeah.
and he can teleport out of the way anyway. Bullets actually wound up might hit some poor demon in limbo dimension. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's like he wasn't really in danger. And again, everyone knows that Silver Sable, who is money hungry, that's so much. That's as much as a cover for who she is as anyone else. Silver Sable is basically the her wild pack. They are basically the mercenary group and the main source of income for their very small country.
right. I was
Right.
about to bring that point out because
Yeah, but I
that's
wanted to
not.
say it first.
I got you. It's not that she is money hungry. Is that
Right.
she's doing it for her country and the other people who are suffering there.
But
So
she has a line that she will not cross. And we've
yeah,
seen that line a million times. We've seen her come in opposition with so many different people in the Marvel universe, but at the end of the day, she always makes the right choice and then makes somebody pay. She'll get it from somebody.
somebody has to pay, Ken.
Somebody's going to pay.
Somebody has to pay. Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Hold on. Let's once again give it up for Silver Sable.
Yes. Deeper character than we thought.
Yeah, well, she's always been, and again, we know this. We know this, but we don't always. These come up in conversations between friends, okay? But everyone who's reading a comic is not delving into it on the level that we are. We know that. We have casual readers, and then you got guys that are crazy enough to create a whole blog post to talk about it.
Right.
So I think that again, side spur. I'm gonna try it again. Side
Yeah.
spurling. Did I do it right?
Spur, spur, ring.
Spurring. I think that he knocked this out of the park. So, like I said, the fact that helmet on, you knew she was all business. Helmet off, she can be human and vulnerable. And I thought that was really cool. So, when uh, she betrayed him, was her helmet on or off?
Uh, Actually, at first her helmet was off, but she was in her uniform all the way up to
Right.
her neck. So, and he was not facing her; she was facing away.
Wow.
So, yeah, she sort of turned her back because obviously, I
She
think
didn't want to
that's the
see it.
right. She didn't want to see what she had done, quote unquote.
Right.
Uh,
And that was the third book, right?
yeah, that's in the third book. Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, but that's not the only crazy thing that happened in the third book.
What was
So
the other crazy thing that happened in the third book?
I think we should save that for the next story. I mean, the next part.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to be in 100% agreement with you because things just kept getting crazier and crazier and crazier as they were going on, and it was like he was unveiling them one beat at a time, and it did not feel overwhelming. It felt like it was a natural progression of the story that was going on. So
Yeah, he would ask questions, then
right,
answer them, which would
right,
reveal new questions, and
right.
it just had like a momentum to it in and of itself, and it was action too. So it
Yeah.
wasn't just story; it was action to that story. So yeah, he did a good job.
I'm gonna say that once again, I thoroughly enjoyed this book, which is why I recommended it to you to read. I know a lot of people weren't talking about this. A lot of people are more focused on the X-Men Blue comic that came after this story. But
Yeah,
this story was really important. Even if we never got the X-Men Blue, this was really a lesson in excellence.
you
Really
really
in excellence. Just
you
paying
obviously
attention.
really enjoyed this.
I
You
did. I
obviously really.
did. You
Oh,
know,
by the way, I wanted to bring this up earlier, but you talk so fast. Uh, I think the difference between the manga and the Western comic books
hmm.
is just the culture of the society. I think
Yeah.
in Japan, it's a more slow, it's a more process uh, thought on how things roll out.
Right.
In the Western world, we're more about results and action, and the stories reflect that.
Yeah.
And so, but what's happening, I think, is a lot of that process allows you to get more into the characters, allow you to feel what they're going through a little bit more, and then when the action shows up, it has more meaning.
Right.
It is not just some random bad guy coming out of nowhere. There's a history. There's all what you were talking about before that you as an insider knows, but people who are reading a book get all of that in that book. And
Right.
when I say book, I mean like novel or huge series, as manga is known for.
Right. Right.
But yeah,
Right.
you really get the to the meat of it, and that is I think super important, and that needs to be added more to Western comic books. I know it's difficult because we also want action. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
people read a book, if there's no action, that was boring. But there's so much when you have good writing, it should not be boring. And I think a lot of the people are open to it because obviously a lot more manga is being produced and being sold to American audiences. So they want that depth. They want to know those characters more intimately. They want to know why they do what they do on a deeper level.
Right.
So and they don't mind it slowing down every once in a while. A
Right.
slowing it down really gives you an opportunity to breathe, as opposed to action, 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 action,
Like,
and
do
always
these
being
guys
on the
ever go
clock.
to the bathroom?
Exactly. Are
Yeah.
they never under the pressure of this, saving the world, which is like a Marvel weakness now? At least in the films,
Right.
everything is about saving the world.
Right.
Then it's the universe. Then it's the timeline. It's just such big stakes.
And it makes you want to be just like Nightcrawler said. Can I just stop a mugger?
Yeah, let me just be a hero again. Let me just
Yeah,
stop a
a
robbery,
robbery.
talk with the
It's
people.
yeah. Save a cat from a tree. I'm not asking for much.
Save a cat from a tree. I like that.
It's not the big things. Help an elderly woman across the street.
Yes, yes. Being cheered when you swing by or you jump by.
There you go. Just putting a
And
smile on somebody's face.
exactly. And answering some questions.
Right.
It's simple stuff. Not the fate of the universe is on your shoulders. If you make a mistake, everybody dies.
I actually,
Dude,
and
chill.
I know we're coming to a close, but it's actually one of the things that I loved about the last Spider-Man movie. When it started, it was showing Spider-Man giving directions, just small things.
Hmm.
It's just pulling out a map and said, "No, you got to go over here and then make a left." And it's the little things that a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man does. And Kurt just wanted to go back and be a friendly neighborhood, but he couldn't do it as Nightcrawler because he's a mutant and he would have been blasted to smithereens. How dare you help a human?
Yes.
So
And
I
would the
should,
human even receive the help?
which and it's a little heavy, but I'm going to say it again. The X Men have always been representative of the African American community. Even with Xavier and Magneto counterposing, one being the I Have a Dream and the other one be the Solid Fist. So, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. It's probably the reason why, as kids, we were drawn to the X Men, and it was always our favorite, more than the Avengers, more than the Fantastic Four, more than any other team book, because we can understand what they were saying. Because the world has left us a lot of times feeling like mutants, and to this day, if there's more than three of us walking in the street, we are considered a gang. I didn't mean to go into that.
You just went so
I didn't mean to go completely left there.
you went there,
I
brother.
went all the way there, but it's so cool that they're able to do this. And also bear in mind, remember, it's not Cy by himself. He's got an entire team. He's got the writer. Well, he's the writer, but he's got the artist and the colorist and letterers and the
Yeah.
editor,
So
and he has all of these people that are working together to make this thing a success, and they still have a limited time to get it done. So I'm blown away at this level of excellence.
okay. I'm glad to hear it. I'll let Sai know.
Please give him a call.
I'll give him a call and let him know.
Let
Kenny
him know.
really
Kenny
appreciates what you do.
Kenny gave him a real big thumbs up. So this is Kenny Williams, and
James Roberts.
we have been chasing the plot.
There
Bam!
we go.
I just
There
wanted to
we
throw it
go.
up one more time.
Okay.
We are once again the founders of 6BComics, and we hope to see you at the next broadcast. You guys have a great evening.
Peace.
Peace.